There are sometimes you have to get into the nitty-gritty of troubleshooting, and that's typically where we'll pull out the tool of Wireshark, of which we have a fantastic series here on CBT Nuggets. Well, Wireshark is only effective if you can actually see the traffic you're monitoring, and that is the goal of SPAN and RSPAN, the topic of this nugget. Every switch out of the box isolates devices into their own collision domains. That means those devices can only see traffic that's sent to and from them, as well as some broadcast traffic. That's the way it should be. But oftentimes, as a network administrator, we want eyes into the network to be able to see what's really going on there. So we can then take that output and pipe it to a monitoring workstation running a tool like Wireshark. So, in order to do that, Cisco allows us to configure SPAN sessions, Switchport Analyzer sessions. We designate a group of source ports and we say, I want to send those out to this destination port, and then we open up Wireshark and do our monitoring. So to show that, I've got a Cisco 3550 switch. I'm going to go into global config mode and type in monitor session followed by a session number. Now this switch happens to support a maximum of 2 sessions at the same time. That's monitoring sessions. As you get into bigger switches, they'll usually support more sessions at once. But I'm going to say monitor session 1. I'm going to watch from the source interface. We'll just do fast Ethernet 0 / let's say 12. From there you can specify a range of interface, like maybe through 20 or something like that. And you will sometimes run into hardware limitations like, oh, well, this platform can only support this many ports monitored at the same time. And then you get to specify what direction the traffic is going in. Is it being received, sent, transmitted, or both? If you don't specify and just hit the enter key, it's going to default to both, which is what I want in this case. I'm then going to do monitor session 1 destination. See, we're grouping these things into their own monitor session. I'm going to say I'm going to send this out interface fast Ethernet 0 / 1, and I'm done. Now anything that's sent or received on port 12 will automatically be piped out to my computer. So SPAN is great when you're monitoring stuff on the same switch, but what happens when you want to monitor something on a remote switch? Does that mean I have to unplug my device, walk down the hallway, and plug it in here? We know that's against all Cisco mantra. We sit in our chairs as Cisco technicians, and that's why they created RSPAN. Remote SPAN allows you to create a designated VLAN. I'll just say 9999, right? Just make one up. Just something that you're not using, and you flag that as an RSPAN VLAN. Then you can trunk that VLAN down to the top switch and receive it here. Let me show you how this works. So this is CBT switch 2. I've plugged into CBT switch 1 down here. First things first, I'm going to go into global config VLAN 999. Just make sure it's not in use, right? Any VLAN will do. And I'll do remote SPAN. To tell it, this is not user traffic, this is used for remote SPAN. Then I start configuring my monitor session as I did before. So let's say on this switch I want to monitor session 1, and we'll focus in. I want to do the source interface, fast Ethernet 0 / we'll just do 10, right? So we're assuming that source computer's plugged into 10, and we'll monitor both directions of traffic. And I'm going to say the monitor session 1 destination. Now instead of an interface, I'm going to say destination remote. And notice it's going to say, oh, what VLAN did you designate as your RSPAN VLAN? So we'll say VLAN 999. By the way, if you have trunks that limit what VLANs are on there, you'll definitely have to add 999 to your trunk right there. Now, we're also going to see here, this is a Cisco 3550, which has a hardware limitation. So they came up with this idea of a reflector port. Essentially, the chassis itself on a 3550 doesn't have the juice, the horsepower to be able to do RSPAN. So they sacrifice one of your other ports. They call it a reflector port. All it is a port that hopefully you're not using because you're going to take it down when you do this, that gives up its ASIC resources. So think of it like this. This computer's being monitored, right? You're watching this computer. It's capturing the data and piping it out this quote-unquote reflector port. Now, it's not actually going out that port. It's just sacrificing its resources, looping it back into the switch, and then sending it out in the other direction. You'll find a couple Cisco switches that have that hardware hardware limitation. The 3550 is one of them. And of course, now I've right-clicked and destroyed everything. Hold on. Okay, got my command back. So when I type in the reflector port, I just want to make sure that I use an interface that's not being in use. It can be anything. It doesn't even have to have something plugged into it. I'll just say /20, right? So now I've configured my remote VLAN monitoring on this switch. Now I just go back to my original switch, which is right here, and I configure it to receive that information. So I'm going to create the same VLAN here, 999 remote span. If I need to add it to the trunk, I can do that, or if you allow all VLANs, your work is done. Now I'm going to do kind of the receiving side of the config. Monitor session, let's create session 2 this time, and we'll say the source is going to be remote VLAN, not just VLAN. VLAN would be a VLAN on the local switch. I'm going to say the remote VLAN 999, right? So we're going to receive it on there, and then I just say monitor destination. Nope. Sorry, monitor session 2, there we go, destination. And we do interface, and whichever interface we want to pipe it out. Again, our monitoring workstation. We'll say fast Ethernet 0/5, if that's where our monitoring workstation is in. Now I've configured it to receive this remote information on VLAN 99 and pipe it out to the monitoring workstation on fast Ethernet 0/5. Now you have one more excuse as a network admin to do all your work from your chair. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for reviewing.